Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, I'm going to be taking this podcast on the road again in a few weeks, as I'm going to be covering the Magento Imagine event, which I'm sure you all know by now is an Adobe company. And I've got to confess, I am quite excited about this one, as Gary Vaynerchuk is speaking. And I'm going to let you all into a little secret. And the only reason I'm going to tell you this secret is that I hope that it will inspire you. Because back in 2015, I was working in IT and was 7 years into a job that involved a 2-hour round trip to the office every single day. But I made the most of that time listening to inspirational podcasts and reading the odd book during that daily commute. So there I was, reading and listening to Gary Vaynerchuk telling me to build a side hustle from 7 p.m. till midnight instead of watching Netflix and playing video games. And I did just that. And I quickly found that 2 blog posts a week turned into 100 a year, which led to me picking up a LinkedIn Top Voice Award for the number 2 tech writer on the whole of LinkedIn. And then tech columns with Inc. magazine, The Next Web, and eventually my own daily tech podcast followed. And here I am now approaching 1,000 podcast episodes, and I'm going to be flying out to cover an event and watching Gary Vaynerchuk speak in person. And to me, that feels like I've kind of come full circle. But I only tell you this because I know someone somewhere in any of the 165 countries that you all listen to this Daily Tech podcast that you will want to follow in my footsteps. And if you do want to do that, please email me anytime. And you can reach me at techblogwriter@outlook.com if you need my help or if these words and this story resonated with you in any way. But enough of my life story. After seeing Jason Woosley on stage at the Adobe Summit recently, I invited him on the show to find out more about what happened since Adobe hit the headlines last June, when you may remember they announced the completion of its acquisition of Magento Commerce for an incredible $1.68 billion. And I also want to learn more about the future direction of Adobe Commerce Cloud, as well as the future of commerce as we know it, and also what to expect at the Imagine event in the next few weeks. Now, Jason is a seasoned technology executive with over 20 years of proven success building high-performance product development organizations, but at scale. And what I also love about Jason is he is fluent in many languages. For example, he can speak both geek and boardroom, which, let me tell you, is a skill in incredible short supply. But by doing that, he can help enable active engagement across multiple businesses and technology disciplines. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Texas so we can speak with Jason, who's going to tell us all about that and much, much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Jason. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Neil, for having me on. So I run the commerce operations at Adobe. I came as a gift as part of the Magento acquisition back last year in 2018. And, my role here really is around delivery of the product. So my scope of responsibilities are everything from product management, engineering, architecture, as well as the cloud delivery and tech ops, and of course the customer engineering and our customer support organization all report in through me. So I get a great ability to sort of understand the needs of our prospects, go execute on that, deliver it in a very innovative and highly capable way, and then get that customer feedback so that we're constantly iterating towards something fantastic for our consumers.
And like you said there, in June last year, Adobe announced the completion of the acquisition of the Magento Commerce, which is a market-leading commerce platform. And I can't believe how quickly that time has gone. But the addition of the Magento Commerce Cloud to the Adobe Experience Cloud delivered a single end-to-end digital experience platform. Now, I did see you on day one of the Adobe Summit just a few weeks ago in Vegas, where you unveiled this new Adobe Commerce Cloud. But for everyone listening that didn't see that keynote and probably have limited understanding on how this all fits together, can I just ask that you bring everyone up to speed with a kind of overview of what they missed?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the opportunity. So the Adobe Commerce Cloud announcement really is a significant milestone, right? It is a fourth pillar in the overall Adobe Experience Cloud, peer to the Marketing Cloud, the Advertising Cloud, and the Analytics Cloud. So it brings us in a really great company in terms of the importance of commerce today. Adobe Commerce Cloud is, at its core, a tuned and highly capable version of Magento Commerce that has been deeply integrated into the digital experience products. So you see the capabilities of bringing this kind of 360-degree view of your customer to life in a very real way, right? So you not only have the behavioral information that you get from things like Adobe Analytics and your Adobe Experience Manager, but now you actually have a complete vision with the addition of the transactional data provided by the commerce activities. So Adobe Commerce Cloud really represents our opportunity to bring experience-driven commerce to life, right? Our mission is to make every moment personable and every experience shoppable. And the capabilities that we've unleashed with Adobe Commerce Cloud position us very well to deliver against that.
Now, I interviewed Mark Lavelle at Magento Live last year in Barcelona, and I was incredibly intrigued by just how passionate the Magento community is. And I think a lot of that could be attributed to the open source history of Magento. But as we approach a year since that acquisition, do you think that cultural alignment between Adobe and Magento is still as strong?
Absolutely. In fact, it has been incredibly refreshing to see just how much the Adobe community has embraced Magento open source community. It has been a true, bilateral improvement for both ecosystems now coming together. So it's been fantastic to be able to influence how Adobe thinks about open source, and they're very, very active in the open source community, especially in digital experience, where we have products like Adobe Launch and Brackets. So lots of great initiatives coming out of Adobe on the open source side, and then of course for the Magento community, it's just been this incredible injection of new ideas and, challenging the status quo. And that's always how we get better. So, the Magento community is incredibly passionate. They are, single-handedly the most significant differentiator for Magento Commerce when it comes to our competitors is the presence and the incredible capability of our community, literally 300,000 plus developers worldwide. So the ability to find somebody that can work on your Magento project in region is a true advantage everywhere. And so as we kind of continue down this integration road, the capabilities and really Adobe.io represents a terrific developer experience centric, set of capabilities. And I think you'll see Magento plug in more and more into the capabilities around Adobe.io and really trying to bring the ecosystem together, because I think we're all better when we work as one rather than, kind of a stitched together adjacency. And so we're doing our very best to make sure that integration is strategic, deliberate, and very well thought through as we go through bringing those things together. But the alignment with Adobe has been just terrific. I think everybody was, a little bit concerned about, what happens to a scrappy open source company when it, becomes part of a big enterprise. But I think we've been just, delighted to find that there's a real eagerness to go and embrace some of the, cultural capabilities that Magento brings to the table.
And it really does feel like Adobe has all the right pieces in place now. And I do appreciate there's a lot of work taking place to get you where you are now. But can I ask you to share your vision now for 2019 and beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do. We have got the end-to-end story now for the first time. I think commerce really kind of closed that last mile. The addition of Marketo last year adds a robustness to the B2B capabilities that we're able to bring to market now. So 2019 has to be the year of meaningful integration, right? It has to be a time for us to really say, hey, we have no excuses and we've got these pieces in place. And now it is really on us to execute against making the experience our customers. We're an experience company. So really thinking through how the experience our customers have with our product and, what does a meaningful integration look like? We don't want to just, have these point products that we stitch together and call it a day, right? We're looking at much more meaningful workflows that are contiguous across our different product lines and really bringing all of those capabilities to bear in very innovative ways. So, 2019, I think will be, continued focus on, making these products work very well together, right? We've got incredible opportunities to influence each other's roadmaps, make them really, really interesting and super creative commerce capabilities come to light. And it's really on us if we don't take advantage of that. So there is a lot of work to do there. I think it is exactly the right work to go do. And, we're thrilled about the progress we've made so far, but certainly can't let up on the gas. I think as we start looking at what Adobe Commerce Cloud can bring in terms of commerce capabilities to all these brand new use cases that are popping up all over the place, I think we're going to need to get this work done so we can be ready for the level of innovation that this market requires in 2020 and beyond.
And for any business leaders that are going to be listening to our conversation here all over the world, and that could be this week, next month, or even a year from now listening to this conversation, can you paint a bit of a picture of how you see the future of commerce and any big changes that you see on the horizon that could affect these businesses?
Well, I tell you what, one constant in commerce is change. It is one thing to try and predict the future. It is another to make sure that your business is ready and agile to pivot into these new experiences as they come online. I think in the near term we've gotten some certainty around what's happening with things like omnichannel, right? It's a thing we talked about for a long time. It was lots of keynote presentations around the importance of omnichannel. But really, it's been only in the last 2 years or so that we've seen omnichannel start to mature into business models that actually deliver value to retailers. And I'll give you an example of that. We started measuring buy online, pick up in store, or click and collect, as they call it outside of the U.S. In January of last year, 2018. And in the period of just from January through the holiday season last year, for large retailers, we saw over a 250% increase in the application of that particular model, right, of customers making a purchase online, but visiting the brick and mortar retailer to actually collect their product. And I think that's something that we're starting to see more and more, right? We talked about all the promises of omnichannel. Now we're starting to actually see these capabilities. And what's really interesting is that when you deliver on these capabilities, consumers immediately begin to expect it as a standard, right? We saw this happen with Amazon, right? They changed fast shipping from, a week to 2 days, and it became standard shipping. Now 2-day shipping is, fairly standard, and you can get stuff done in an hour. So we continue to see this landscape change. And I think the one thing that you can always count on is that consumers, when they find something that they like and it resonates with them, the adoption will be through the roof. And the other big area, if we look forward in the commerce landscape, is looking at the implications of mobile. Right, we've seen now cross the threshold where we're 50% of retailers' web traffic is now coming from mobile devices, and the checkout experience is still not frictionless. It is still somewhat painful. So if you see capabilities like the Payment Gateway API, or Payment Request API rather, as those things start to come online, and if we find ways to address consumers' needs to really be able to express their purchase intention without having to, remember a credit card number or enter a bunch of, usernames and passwords, it really has to get to this frictionless experience. And I think we're seeing tremendous capabilities in mobile with things like Payment Request API and progressive web applications that will change that landscape for the better. But it's really, as you look further out, you start thinking about how does the commerce experience really change? I mean, we start thinking about taking the transactional capabilities to every moment we find our customer. Every interaction with our brand needs to be a shoppable moment. And when you really start to unpack what that means, it changes the landscape of how you think about delivering experiences and how you accept customers' intention to purchase, and how you assist them on that journey all the way from awareness of there's a problem to solve, all the way through kind of post-purchase and making sure that you're investing in total lifetime value. So, I think the future is very bright for commerce. It is going to continue to be a very dynamic landscape. And that's, my advice to business leaders today is invest in agility, because that's going to serve you best as these new models emerge.
And you work with some of the biggest businesses and biggest brands in the entire world. I'm curious, are there any particular kinds of challenges or opportunities that all your customers are talking to you about? Are there any trends across multiple industries that you're coming across?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And there are, in fact, I think several challenges that we see, not just for folks in a particular vertical, but really across all verticals. And I'll go back to, omnichannel. And implementation of omnichannel operations is, it's a little bit more than just being a checkbox on the feature list of a commerce set, right? When you start thinking about omnichannel operations, you're looking at, taking your brick and mortar stores and turning those into, little mini distribution centers. You're thinking about inventory in an entirely new way. And it touches multiple systems in your back end and really changes, not just the tools that you use, but the processes and the way that you think about, online versus offline and blended sales. And so I think, that is something that everybody, tends to struggle with. It's one of those things where you think, okay, I need to go do omnichannel. I've got, a great network of stores. I'd love to turn those into distribution centers. I'd love to have capabilities like pick up in store, ship to store, really start treating my inventory as this fluid thing that I can, on a moment's notice, get delivered to a customer, anywhere in the globe. And so those challenges are, coming up again and again. And I think that's an area where, we've seen, a lot of investment go into understanding the change management necessary to truly become omnichannel. So, merchants continue to wrestle with that. And then I think the other is internationalization, really understanding that, we are in a very much a global market at this point. And, restricting your sales to a particular locale really doesn't do any good for your brand or your business. And, understanding how to take those capabilities outside your borders. It's another area that folks tend to struggle with, despite the fact that it's, it's something that we've seen done well in quite a few cases. There are a lot of best practices to apply. But it's something that I think people tend to think is too hard, too difficult. And, it's an area where our software really makes it very, very easy to go and try out these new geos and, measure your effectiveness and make some determinations about, how you think about your global expansion, because that is, certainly the other key piece of the pie is, preventing, the sprawl of disparate systems across your different geographies, because then you have all this work to go and reconcile that data back into something actionable. When, if you take a software platform that takes globalization to heart, you've got a lot of capabilities to act on the data that you get back from that in a very meaningful way. So that's kind of what I think. I mean, it's a little bit of a scary thought that there's still these challenges that we see retailers, running into again and again. But, it's one thing to accommodate these new use cases. It's one thing to go say I'm going to be an omnichannel retailer. It is an absolute another to look at your business processes and be willing to reinvent yourself towards that digital transformation and actually, realizing the customer centricity that's inherent in that transformation is I think one of the most important things. And so you start to see that come up more and more.
Now, like I said a few moments ago, it really does feel that Adobe and Magento, you've got all the right pieces in place at the moment. But a question I've got to ask, I mean, do you think we're likely to see much more consolidation in this space? I mean, not just from Adobe, but your competitors too, as this landscape continuously evolves?
Yeah, I think we do. I think we see, a little bit of it going both ways, right? We've got some acquisition activity happening across the board where you do see some consolidation. You've also got some divestitures, right? IBM's making some very interesting moves in terms of their commerce operations. So it's a reaction to the dynamic market, right? It's one of those areas where having that built-in agility really is the only way to answer call that this change demands. And I think it gets us to a place where we really start to kind of push the needle on innovation and ingenuity and bringing those capabilities to bear. And that's going to drive, a certain level of consolidation as folks realize, single vendor solutions, have some terrific advantages in terms of supportability, maintainability, managing the relationship, all of that, roadmap influence and all of those capabilities, I think are, we're likely to continue to see movement. I think it will be very interesting to watch this landscape evolve. It's, certainly not nearly as fractured as the Marcom landscape, but at the same time, there's still a lot of players that have, carved out very unique little pieces. And I do think we'll continue to see, some aggressive, competitors and Adobe as well continue to look at that market for opportunities to find something synergistic to make an investment in.
And as someone that's working right in the heart of this and at an incredibly exciting time, I've got to ask, what excites you most about the future of the Adobe Commerce Cloud?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really it is this level of insight that we're going to get from putting both the behavioral data, the insights that you get from all of your content and how, how customers interact with your brand, and then pairing that up with, the vote with your dollar, right? The transactional kind of certainty of, they've now gone through that journey and you're on the post-purchase side of the equation. And you can start to do things like, projecting lifetime value of a customer. And this makes the personalization experience incredibly powerful. Just bringing that level of insight and actionable insights to retailers, I think it's starting to become the future. We're working now with data sets that are too large for any human to ever consume. And so we have to be able to leverage things like Adobe Sensei, our machine learning and artificial intelligence platform, to really go mine that massive raw data set for actionable insights. And then when you do that and you train that system in a way that, is providing, real value out of this massive raw data, you can really fine tune your experience and get to, we keep on this journey with our commerce operations to get merchants to that audience of one, so that they're speaking to an individual, not necessarily a cohort or, a group of people. But, really thinking about, how do I tune this experience in a way that makes my brand extremely relevant, and then I can make the purchase process, extremely frictionless, so that they're able to actually go get value, enjoy the experience, and at the same time, the retailer's mining a rich set of data that provides capabilities for them to feed that back into the process and keep refining that message. It's the for me it is the pillar of being able to get better data to merchants to manage their business. This is the most exciting thing that I've seen come together in the commerce landscape in a number of years. We have all talked about 360-degree views of the customer, how important that is. We are now delivering that natively in a single solution set, and it is phenomenally powerful. So that's the thing that is probably the most exciting to me. It's a little bit geeky, but there's a ton of other really, really cool things that it unlocks, right? The concept that you can make every moment personal and every experience shoppable. That's so powerful, and it's so resonant with merchants and consumers that it's one of those things where you kind of start to realize, hey, we are on the right track, because every time that we have a conversation about experience-driven commerce, that is exactly what merchants are trying to do. And so I am incredibly proud of what we pulled together to go answer that particular market question, and do so in a very definitive and highly capable way.
Well, you picked the perfect place to come and get geeky, so you're in good company here, Jason. Now, I'm going to be flying over from the UK to cover the Imagine event in the next few weeks, and maybe even try and grab a selfie with Gary Vaynerchuk along with everyone else. But I believe it actually started 8 years ago with the grand vision to simply connect the global e-commerce community. But as this will be my first time, what should I expect, and what is it that you love most about the event?
Well, Imagine is truly something special, right? It is a global gathering of the very best and the brightest in the world of e-commerce, and it's truly something amazing. So we hold it at the Wynn there in Las Vegas, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous hotel. We end up with an entire kind of wing of the conference area there, and we have thousands of merchants, thousands of developers. It is truly a meeting of the minds where everything is on the table. More business gets done at Magento Imagine than just about anywhere else all year when it comes to closing commerce deals, updating contracts, and winning over new customers. So it's a showcase of our very best implementations. We have a Imagine Excellence Awards where we're able to recognize partners and merchants that are really doing incredible things with our software. So it's a big celebration of everything that we've done for the year. It's chock full of announcements about what's to come. So a great opportunity to learn what's on our roadmap, get a deep dive on any of the new product features and capabilities that we're investing in. We actually do a lot of architecture work at Imagine as well, where we bring our technical partners and our community of developers together really talk through what's the technical direction for the overall commerce framework, and how do we see this thing evolving, and making sure that we're bringing the community along for the ride as we update our roadmap and make investments in various technologies. So Imagine is really, it is truly special. It is very hard to describe. When I started at this company a little over 3 years ago, my very first week on the job was Magento Imagine. And it is a completely overwhelming experience. There's so much content. It is going to be difficult to find the right sessions to go to because they're all going to be incredibly good. We bring engineers, product managers, everybody from our business gets a chance to interact with customers. And so it's a real rare opportunity for employees as well to get to interact with that really rich global e-commerce community. It is actually one of the coolest things in the world. I am so excited that you're going to be there. I think you're going to have a terrific time. We do throw a legendary party on the first night or second night. That is not to be missed. It is a terrific opportunity to celebrate everything commerce, everything that Magento and Adobe have done together. And, this will be the first Imagine since the acquisition. So it's a great opportunity to continue telling the Better Together story. And really just kind of celebrate what we've done and where we're going, because our opportunity in commerce is absolutely astounding. It knows no bounds as far as I can tell. It's much more a question about sequence than when you're going to do things or how you're going to get them done. It's just figuring out priorities and what we're going to do there. And so this conference is actually a terrific opportunity for us to get feedback. We get an opportunity to meet with all of our customers. We get a really good opportunity to deep dive with our customer advisory board and our partner advisory board. We have a terrific partner meeting there. But it is I think one thing is really cool is the optimism that you feel at Magento Imagine, right? And it is a truly unique community because it brings retailers, partners, and developers all together, and it's a great opportunity to share ideas and share perspectives, right? Because we all benefit tremendously from that diversity of perspectives. So the sessions will be fantastic, as you said. Gary will be there leading the charge. Everybody is extremely excited about that. But we've got some terrific speakers. We've got a breakout session track that is chock full of great information that allows you to kind of fine tune the experience for the things that you're most interested in. And again, it's a very inclusive community. It's one of those things. We have a thing that they do called the Pac-Man rule, where if you see people standing in a circle, they'll try and make sure that there's room for one more, no matter how big that circle gets, so that people feel invited into the conversation. And it's something that we try and influence the culture of our community every way that we can. We try and set good examples, but you can't buy that kind of passion and engagement. You really just have to organically let it develop. And we are so fortunate to have, a community that cares as much as ours does. And it's really something special to watch.
I love that. I love that Pac-Man rule you just mentioned there, because as someone that just covers a lot of conferences and events all over the world, you do feel a little bit like the guy on his own even if it is a legendary party, you're the guy on his own, in a different part of the world. So I think that's a great thing, just to be so inclusive, include everyone into those conversations. It makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It does. It absolutely does. And it just makes it so much easier for you to, build some of those relationships so that, the next time you come to Imagine, you're, not a stranger. And it's been so special to watch. And just the characteristic of the community. I mean, it puts a smile on my face every time I think about how, these guys really do stand up for each other. And it's really, it's humbling, and it's just an exciting and very special thing to be a part of.
Well, now you've got me excited, but if there is anyone listening that wants to attend Imagine, follow it online, or just find out more details about any of the topics we've talked about today, what's the best way of keeping up to speed with that kind of information?
Yeah, absolutely. So imagine.magento.com has all of the information that you need. We're also on all of the social media. So we're very active on Twitter as well as Instagram, and I've been told we have a Facebook account, yeah, so the information is out there. Magento Imagine is the hashtag, and it is going to be a terrific show. We've got a lot of big announcements coming this year. I can't wait. We're only a few weeks away now. The venue's getting ready. We've got all of our partners are excited. We do a thing called Road to Imagine every year. we actually have a tremendous contingent of runners in our community. And so they put together a what they call the Big Dam Run, which is a run out to the dam over in Hoover Dam out in Las Vegas. And they do that every year. So you can start to see on Twitter, follow Road to Imagine, and you can see kind of everybody's preparations for, coming together for this great event. It is it's something special, but yes, imagine.magento.com is probably the very best place to go do that.
Fantastic. Well, I'll add all those links to the show notes and the blog post that accompanies this podcast. But I mean, you guys have been on an incredible journey. Like we were saying, you've got all the pieces in place now, but it seems to me from the outside looking in that now is where the real exciting stuff starts to happen. And we're going to start seeing a lot of things over the next few months, and that's incredibly exciting too. But more than anything, just a big thank you for joining me today, Jason. And if I see you in Vegas, have a cold beer on me, and hopefully we'll catch up there.
I will take you up on that, Neil. Absolutely. I will take you up on that. Thanks again for having me on, and thanks for the quality conversation. I love this stuff and could talk about it for hours. So hopefully we get a chance to have that conversation and it gets over a beer.
When Jason mentioned the Pac-Man rule, he really wasn't joking, because last year I was fortunate to cover a Magento event in Europe, and I found myself heading down from the hotel room around 7 p.m. I suddenly found myself as the guy in a busy room that didn't know a single person. Now, yes, I know the art of networking, but also have enough self-awareness after listening to Gary V to not be the guy that just invites himself into other people's conversations. But a group from Magento saw me on the periphery and grabbed me by the arm and made me feel a part of the community within minutes of talking to them. And that moment was where I learned so much about just how passionate the Magento community is. And I think it's much to the Adobe's credit that rather than trying to kill that open source community and the passion that they have, they're encouraging it. And that is one of the many things that I found exciting about their vision. And if you're from the Magento and Adobe community and you've got any additional comments about anything that we've talked about today, please. The way this show works is I give my opinions, the guests give theirs, then I invite you to be a part of that conversation too. So please send in your insights. And equally, if you just want to join me for a cheeky cold beer in between keynotes at the Imagine event, or even form a gang that wants to just grab a selfie with Gary Vaynerchuk, again, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, and Instagram, LinkedIn, it's all at Neil C. Hughes too. I'm incredibly easy to find. And I'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts and your insights and make you a part of that conversation, like I said. So keep them coming in. But I'm afraid that's it for today's episode. All that's left for me to say is a huge thank you to Jason for coming on the show today and agreeing to talk with me, and an even bigger thank you to each and every one of you for choosing this podcast to be the soundtrack to your commute each and every day. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.